This was the quote that I think probably got me the most riled up, if you will, from this Athlon segment. And again, Athlon's probably my favorite preview magazine out there right now, just so we're on the same page. But this anonymous coach has a quote on Georgia that to me is just a little bit bonkers. Check this out. Defensively, it's still an elite group, but they're thin at linebacker. What? What are we? I'll continue. Quote, the biggest question mark will be the offense under Stockton. They didn't chase any portal guys, so let's see if the kid can become elite. Let's tackle this in two parts. Let's start with the defensive side. Defensively, they're thin at linebacker. As soon as I read this, I sent that quote to someone very, very close to the Georgia football team and said, what are we talking about here? They said, linebacker literally is the deepest position on Georgia's roster. So I don't know who that coach was. There's a reason why he's anonymous. I mean, big old, hey, swing and a miss, pal. Swing and a miss on that one. Georgia, not only are they stacked with 4- and 5-star talent in that room, they also have Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart on their coaching staff. A staff that, since they've gotten there, have not one, not two, but 3 Butkus Award winners. So even if they weren't names that had a lot of stars next to their name, I don't think it's inappropriate to assume that the coaching staff in and of itself would make sure they developed or had the right guys in place to be successful. Remember a year ago or so, you had guys transferring out of Georgia's linebacker room that kind of gave you a little eyebrow raise. Like, wait a second, this doesn't totally track. Why is, I'll just say it, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, why is he transferring out of Georgia? That dude is a guy that had a lot of success at Georgia over his career. Well, I talk to people close to Georgia, and they say nobody knows that room better than the players in that room. And the players in that room saw the young bucks in there. They're like, hey, this is a special group now. They're going to be really good. My playing time, not just going to go away, but it might get, cut into a fraction of what it was because of how good we are. I want to go play more snaps. I'm going to go somewhere else, is what was communicated to me. So for Georgia now, to drive this point home, they are not thin at linebacker. They are enormously talented. They feel enormously talented internally. They will have guys ready to roll. Linebacker is Georgia's best position. So just the best way I can say this is that's not true. That anonymous coach, that is not true. All right, that's the first part of this. Let's go back to the second part of that quote. Talking about Gunnar Stockton and what the offense is and that being a question mark, I hear that. But again, Georgia did go after portal guys, to be clear, in the winter cycle. I think they also during the spring might have just taken a gander at the portal if they had found the right guy. That's not them saying that Gunnar Stockton wasn't going to be good. It's just them saying we want to add competition, which is pretty much how Kirby Smart gets down. But here's the thing. That quote said, we'll see if Gunnar Stockton can be elite. That's not the point. That's missing the entire point around Georgia's offense. Gunnar Stockton is not going to be asked to be elite. Nobody's saying internally in Athens, I don't believe right now, that Gunnar Stockton's going to be, a first-round pick for Georgia when he leaves, or he's going to be, a Heisman Trophy guy. Like, I don't think that's even the expectation internally. You had a guy like that last year in Carson Beck. How you felt this time last year? Projected number 1 overall pick, projected Heisman Trophy winner. What was the problem? Receivers weren't good enough. Offensive line wasn't good enough. Running back room wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough all around Carson Beck. And so the point for Georgia in 2025 is not can Gunnar Stockton be elite. It's can they be elite around him? Can they have dudes on the perimeter to go win for them? Noah Thomas, Zachariah Branch, all the guys we've talked about now ad nauseum for Georgia. Can they step up? It's not a quarterback thing for them. Yeah, Gunnar Stockton's got to do his job, but it's not a thing where Gunnar Stockton has to put the team on his back and Superman be elite for them to somehow find a way to get it done. If you watched the last episode of The Hard Count with Aaron Murray, he said something that I think a lot of us had maybe wondered about for a little bit around the Georgia locker room. And he, in not so many words, essentially said there were people in Georgia's locker room, per Aaron Murray, that maybe weren't the biggest fan of Carson Beck. I don't know if I'm putting too much to that, but I think that was essentially what he was saying. Gunnar Stockton, you watched it when he came in the game against Texas in Atlanta in the SEC championship game. There was an immediate vibe change. There was not this panic, we're back on our heels, what are we going to do? The vibe that you would almost expect from a team that is playing their second-string quarterback in the biggest game of their season to that point. It wasn't any of that. It was, we got our guy, let's roll. Like, they rally around Gunnar Stockton. So as much as I'll say the locker room itself personnel-wise has to be better around Gunnar Stockton. I think that Gunnar Stockton will get more out of this team from a emotional standpoint, which sounds weird to say out loud, but at quarterback, especially at a place like Georgia, you better have all 10 dudes around that quarterback believing in him and ready to go to war for him. All right, like Will Campbell said on his draft night, I'll fight and die for that man. Speaking about Drake May, you better fight and die for Gunnar Stockton. I don't know if they would have or not done that for Carson Beck, but I'll tell you what, it feels a lot like they'll do that for Gunnar Stockton, and that's going to ultimately lead to good things on Saturdays for Georgia. So here's the last thing I'll say. You know who else is reading this outside of us? I don't know if Kirby Smart is spending a lot of time in Barnes & Noble, but I promise you, a quote like this got to his desk. I don't know how. I don't know who sent it to him, but I promise you, he somehow, some way got this. And Kirby Smart is the kind of guy that's been able to manufacture a chip on the shoulder for this team after national championships. You got Nolan Smith talking to the camera saying, y'all said we go 7-5. We want to do this, we want to do that. We're all sitting at home after watching that on Twitter like, dog, nobody said you were going to go 7-5. Nobody that actually had anything to say about Georgia that was credentialed had anything to say about that. Now you have Kirby Smart able to take a quote like this and say, the lines of scrimmage aren't going to be as good. We'll see what they are when it comes to linebacker. They're thin there. Can Gunnar Stockton be elite? He can take this quote, put it in front of his football team. He doesn't have to manufacture anything. You're making his job easy. You're making one of the best motivators in the sport. You're making his job easy, which we'll see what that equates to. But right now in the month of May, that wouldn't be a spot I'd want to be if I had to play Georgia on my schedule. So we'll let that be known. Linebacker room, it's not thin. I mean, smack yourself in the face. Not thin. Gunnar Stockton does not have to be elite. I'm not telling you Georgia's going to go ahead and win the national championship, but I'm just saying those things are not true, and Kirby Smart now has all the juice he needs to get that team rolling. Let that be known.